computer and then I'll load it up on YouTube. So thanks for coming in tonight. So this is kind of our final Zoom session ahead of our presentation. So we're all comfortable with presentation on Monday night. So we do have, I've already arranged that with Elizabeth and Harry, so they'll be there at 8 o'clock. So we'll come in and we'll do that. And then you kind of just got to get this reflective assessment done. I know a few people have asked for extensions. I think out of the 6, I think 4 have, which is fine. So they've all been approved. And if the other 2 people need them as well, just pop in there that you need an extension for 2 days. That's not an issue. But well done on getting this far, guys. I mean, it's been a little bit of a journey, but you're getting there. So that's good. So there are 2 more pieces of assessment that are now due, or that will be due. So the reflection piece and the final exam. So we're going to talk about those tonight. If you have any questions as we're progressing through this, please ask as we're going through. So you just pop your hand up and say, hey, I've got a question. And then at the end, we can talk briefly about the presentation, because I think you want to talk about that tonight as well, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, but so we'll get to that. I don't have slides for that one. It'll just be a discussion. Okay, so the reflective journal. So with the reflective journal, it's something that you probably should have been working on throughout the TP. But look, I understand people may not have, or may fall a little bit behind. So the good news is you still have an opportunity to go back and catch up on anything that you feel you need to catch up on, and anything that you need to reflect upon. So we'll talk a little bit about what some of those things might be tonight, and I'll show you an example of a good reflective paper, and I'll show you a poor one. Okay, because I want you to kind of see, just get a comparison so that you kind of know where you sit. But the important thing is that you have kept some notes throughout the term, and that you can reflect on some of those feelings. Okay, all right. So let's have a look here. So the first thing we need to consider is the word. Well, it's the second assessment, but it's the word limit. So it says 2,500 to 2,800, plus or minus 10%. But what I want to be really clear about here is that we're not looking for quantity. What we're looking for is quality. And so you should have, in terms of how we get that number of 2,500 to 2,800, you should have 10 reflections in your discussion. And they should be roughly around 300 words. Okay. The due date is August the 1st. And as I've said, a few people have already asked for extensions. So that's okay. I'm pretty flexible on that. So if those that haven't asked for an extension, if you need one, please let me know. But I'd say to you, I'm reluctant to go for more than 2 days, because I think otherwise then you get behind on other things. So just try and stick to that 2 day. But if someone's really, really struggling, then reach out and let me know. So Monday the 1st, so let's say Monday the 3rd, if people all submit their request for an extension. Okay, so I'm not going to read all this because I don't want to bore you to tears with it. But what I do want to do is, I mean, you've probably already read this, but what I do want to do is just highlight some key points. Okay. So one of the first things you need to think about is you need to focus on the distinction between practice and marketing theory. Okay, so over the course of the year or your degree, you've learnt lots of theory. Okay, so you've got that down packed. With the project, you've been able to put that into practice. Okay, so that's the whole idea of the project, to say, well, over your time that you've been a student and you've been covering all this theory, you cover the theory, and then you're now going to be able to put that into practice. So you need to make the connection between what you have learned from a theoretical perspective and how you put it in practice is important. You don't need to cover everything, obviously, you have that you have learned, but you need to make a connection between some of the theory and some of the practical elements. So as I said before, it is supposed to be weekly entries, but just make sure that you pick prominent topics from various parts of the journey. So, when we'll talk about some of the things that you can look at, but, you might be talking about when you did the situational analysis, and there might be some reflections there. You might be talking about the segmentation. So that's some of the more structured stuff. But there's no set reflection questions, so you can pick and choose your own. So whatever you want to talk about. But obviously it needs to be something that helped you to progress through this marketing plan that you did as a team. Okay. So example, if you think about the process of putting the marketing plan together, so initially putting our teams together or putting our team together, there was a little bit of a delay in terms of getting that done. So how did that make you feel? What were some of the pain points that you might have experienced through the journey? What were some of the challenges and how have you overcome them? Did you feel frustrated? What did you feel not happy? So how did this affect you as an individual, and how did it affect the whole team? So there are things that you might talk about. You might talk about your strengths and what you brought to the team. You might talk about your team members in terms of what they brought to the team, and what you might talk about what they need to develop. Now, in terms of, you can be quite open about what you're going to talk about, because to be honest, I'm the only one that's going to read it. So if you want to say that somebody needs to improve in a particular area, that's just something that you've learnt over this process. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings by saying that, because and look, you might even say something really positive about them, so it doesn't have to be negative. I mean, when we talk about in terms of criticism, it doesn't have to be criticism. It needs to be, it could be constructive criticism. It could be something along those lines. Yeah, so again, you might talk about how the team, how you all worked together and how you gave each other feedback and those sorts of things. Okay, so that's some of the areas that you might cover. It talks here about diversity. So if we're going to talk about diversity, it might be, again, how significant is it in terms of the project that you've just worked on? So was there diversity in your team in terms of the different people in the team that brought different perspectives? Was there diversity in the organization that you created the marketing plan for? So Mercy Connect, was there any diversity there that you might be able to talk about? Your journal should be a combination between self and critical reflection. So identify yourself, what you've learned, identify some things that you can critically reflect on, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to criticize, but it's more about discussing and using the theory, as we've talked about, and those theoretical complex concepts, and then explaining how they actually look like in the real world. So think about anything that you may feel that you'll be able to help you with your future studies or future work. So is there something that you did in this process that you feel will be able to, that will benefit you in terms of your own career? And what I mean by that might be something along the lines of, have you understood terminology better? Or that you can now implement in your work, or is there an element of your work that will benefit from what you did? In terms of the personal reflection, I also think that we'll have a look at the rubric in a moment, but let's say that that's a third of your mark, and the rest is towards critical factors and the quality, as we said before, quality over quantity. But look, I'll just say, if you haven't read the summary yet, I'm sure you have, then please make sure that you do so. Okay, so there are 7 elements of the criteria that we need to go through just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We've talked about that critical reflection and analysis. So again, it's looking at a conceptual understanding of the different topics that you might have covered, and then to be able to incorporate some constructive critical discussions and themes. So again, if we mentioned earlier on about the situational analysis, and when we talked about the situational analysis early in the piece, I said, well, why don't you use the 5 C's? And so you could talk about that potentially, or you could take it somewhere else. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer here. Okay, this is your reflection, and it's what how you felt and what you learnt through the process. But it's just important that you link it to some elements of theory. Don't just make it a descriptive, I did this and I felt good. Because often I read those type of reflective pieces and they're not really reflecting on anything. It's just saying, oh, they're very descriptive, and it's just it's a little bit of, well, I'll just do this just to get it in. I think what you want to do is aim for the best mark that you can aim for, and then that way you'll get the most benefit out of this exercise. The personal reflection analysis, in this criterion, you need to demonstrate insightful and effective reflections and identify key learning from the project. So again, when we talk about demonstrate insightful and effective reflections, that's linking it to theory. That's being able to apply the theory in practice. We want you to think about how you contributed to the teamwork effort to complete tasks. I already mentioned that. What contribution did you make? And you need to demonstrate how you did that. So if you're talking about project management skills, then don't just say I implemented project management skills. You need to demonstrate how you actually did that. So provide some sort of discussion around that. Again, team skills, we mentioned that. So look, from where I'm looking, the team looks like you all got on quite well. And so I'm hoping that was the case. But again, fostering, constructing that constructive team climate, how did that work? What were some of the challenges? What's some of the evidence that supports what you did? Okay, number 5, analyze enterprise or professional practice in relation to cultural diversity. So we mentioned the whole idea of diversity in the group and in the actual workplace that you worked on. Recommend courses of action to enhance enterprise or professional practice, and then of course the writing style that you might use. So it says here, be sure to check the sample entries, but they didn't provide us with any. So I'm going to show you a couple now. So I'll show you one. I'll show you the first one, which is really how I would tell you not to do it. Okay, now I'm not going to share the person's name, but you can see here, it's just a dump of words. Okay, so there's no real structure to what's happening, and it's kind of going, you can see there's no references, and it's all just a big brain dump. Okay, and that's really not what you want to do. In fact, it's not what you want to do, because if you do that, then the likelihood is that this scored 50%. Okay, so it was still a pass, but it wasn't a good pass. So you need to be able to think of it in context. Okay, well, let's have a look at what I would suggest was a better one. Make sure I've got the right one. No, that one. Okay, so this time you'll see that this is well sorted out. It's kind of saying, well, in week 1, this is what happened, how the student started the unit. In week 2, you can see that there's some references, so talking about different things that she was doing, and it's, oh yeah, I didn't mean to show you the name, but there it was. But that's okay. This student did very well. So you can see it's quite, and you can see, we talked about there being maybe 300 words per section, but in what she's actually done, she's gone, well, in the first week, there wasn't a lot to reflect on. So she's saved herself some word count and made it a little bit smaller than 300 words. But then she makes up for it when she comes into this section here. She's going, well, I've got a lot to talk about this week. And again, it's kind of going through and saying, well, she's talking about, we all assigned roles to how the formation of our assignment, blah, blah. So she's telling the story, and it's a good, interesting read. And you can see it's not just a big brain dump that the other student unfortunately did. And as I say, there's references throughout it. And then we'll get to the end. Again, you can see that she's done a really good job in terms of, and again, not a lot of references, but enough to demonstrate that she's gone to other sources and what have you. Okay. Yeah, just be careful that you don't just retell the story of what the project was about. I mean, you're giving me that in terms of the marketing plan, so I don't need to know all about the project again. This is your learning, it's your reflection. Okay. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I can't share those. I can't actually send those examples out because they're they do belong to students, but I'm hoping that will provide you with enough information. Do you have any questions on that?
How many references would you say is like a good number?
Oh, look, I think it's going to be. There's no right answer to that, because if it's a really good reflective piece, it could be 20 references. It could be somebody might end up with 50 references, but I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying that
as a minimum, 2, 3, 5.
I would say generally. I mean, when I've done other papers, I say 6 academic sources and maybe some other industry sources. So maybe 6 and 6, which gives you 12. But I mean, she had, I think she had 5 or 6. Let me just have a look. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So she had 5. So I think that 5 references, 6 references is probably enough if you want to get around that. Like if you're looking for a HD, the more references you include, the better. Okay, and when to get a HD type scenario, you've got to kind of give a really solid argument that's very well supported with evidence, and that then gives a counter argument. Essentially, that's a HD paper. But remember, this is a reflective piece, so it's reflecting on your experiences with the group and with what you worked on in terms of Mercy Connect and what have you. So it's not all theoretically based.
Yeah. Cool.
So I think if you do 6 to 10, that I would be pretty comfortable with that. Okay.
Can I ask, in reference to like how we're supposed to go back and like look at theory that we've previously done and how we incorporated it, do we need to discuss like which unit we've got in that?
Oh, no. No. I mean, when you think about things like the marketing plan, then look at what you included in the marketing plan. So you would have included, like we said, the situational analysis. You would have done some segmentation. You've possibly talked about, well, not possibly, you would have talked about the 4 Ps. You might have spoken about the 7 Ps. If you think about it in context of any other element that you've brought into that plan, but then there's some theory around it. So, I'll say to you immediately that because you're talking about something like Mercy Connect, it's a service. And so if any of you have done the services enterprise subject, or if you've done anything in relation, when we think about marketing, we market products or we market services, but the way you market a service is quite different to the way you market a product. So we know that the service is intangible, we know that it's inseparable, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be the sort of theory that you might bring in. If you're talking about promotion, you might talk about the AIDA model. So again, if we're going to have promotion, we have some marketing, we have some promotional objectives or communication objectives, and then we might say, well, that meets the requirements of the AIDA model, which is about awareness, interest, desire, and action. So again, you're referring to something, but you're then talking about, you've got to reflect on that. It's not just saying, well, when I say reflect, it's not giving me the full, you've got to assume that I understand what the theory is. So it's not giving me the full interpretation of the theory. It's saying, well, this element of the theory was something that that I learned through my degree, and I was able to put it to practice in this in the assignment, or we as a team were able to put it into practice. And so you see, it's not just talking about it from your own point of view. It's sort of saying, well, it might be that I'm sure that when you were debating certain elements of your assignment, you might have been saying, well, you might have not agreed on everything. And that should be the case. You shouldn't agree on everything. There would have been times where somebody would have had a different opinion than somebody else. So from that perspective, you need to maybe talk about the difference of opinion and how that made you feel. So yeah, so that's essentially the answer to that question. It's really thinking about it in context of any bit of marketing theory that you learnt, and you'll all end up with something different.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Easy. Thank you so much.
Did you ask that because it's somewhere it says in the description that you need to refer back to like the module units or something, or the readings and stuff or something like that? Because I read that too and I was like, oh,
I can't remember why, but that's what I was. Yeah, I went back to like the the handbook to say like what units
Yeah.
I've done and what I did and what. But yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that because that was getting a little bit tricky.
I was gonna
Yeah,
ask the same
look, I
question.
mean, I don't expect you to remember exactly which module you covered a particular theoretical component. And the reason I say that is because if you look at, if you did like the marketing management, what's it called? Marketing concept subject, I think it's called. The first marketing one anyway. If you do that, you kind of cover everything that then you then cover again in other subjects. So, you know, for example, you might talk about the consumer decision-making process. You'll cover that in the first marketing subject, but then you cover it again in consumer behavior. And then if you're talking about promotion in the first subject, but then you cover it again in integrated marketing communications. So a lot of the things come up again. But yeah, like I say, you don't need to be that specific and say, well, you know, it's not a memory test in terms of where you learnt it. It's, I know the theory and I'm applying it. So that's really the way to do it. Okay. So you're comfortable with that?
Yeah. Yep. In terms, I
Yeah.
have a quite different question. In terms of how you want us to format it, do you? So initially, it's meant to be 10 reflections, like 300 words each, approximately, right?
Roughly, but like I said, it might be 100 here and 400 here.
Yeah. So those reflections, those 10 reflections, are they meant to be based on like chronologically written from the start to finish of how
Your
we
choice.
progressed?
Your choice.
Okay.
It should, but you should be thinking that it's based on as you progress through the units.
Mhm.
Then I would expect that whatever you might reflect on that might have occurred in week one, and you know the
Mhm.
reflection could simply be, you know, turned up in week one, nothing was happening, wasn't really sure what to do, you know, and so from that perspective, you know, felt confused.
Yeah.
That's the reflection. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fair enough.
So
You know.
the reason I ask is because like I've written a bunch of notes throughout the whole. I think we all have on this doc that we have, but I there's no specific dates in some places.
That's fine. That's all right.
So is it okay if essentially we just like sort of like tell the story of how it started and the progress and the process and everything that happened in each stage without providing the dates or the weeks or anything, just like
fine.
as long as it
That's
flows,
fine.
right?
As long as it flows. What I just don't want is one big dump of words. So I do
Mhm.
want you to go, well, reflection 1, reflection 2, reflection 3. If you
Okay.
want to put dates to them, it's up to you. If you don't want to, it's up to you as well.
Okay.
You know, there's no reason why you can't go, well, actually, in week 3, nothing really happened, but in week 5, I've got 2 things that happen. So I'll do 2 reflections, you know,
Sweet.
so it could be along those lines.
Okay.
It's your reflection. It's your document. It's, you have creative license here to do whatever you think works for you. But so long as it's very clear that where one ends and another one starts.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So, and sorry, just I've got a few questions. Just to be
That's
clear.
why we're here, Angard, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. We want 60% of the content to be a reflection on the group aspect of it all, and I guess the other third of the percentage has to be based on what we've input into the.
Yeah, I think the way that it was worded on here, it's personal reflection is a third of your mark, and then the rest
Okay.
is towards critical factors, etc. So let's go to the let me just pull out the where are we? The journal. Sorry, I'm just going to jump onto this here so we can just have a look at it. Where is it? I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, everything's kind of here in terms of the summaries there, but what you're referring to is
marking criteria.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah.
So if you look at the marking criteria, go, well, the critical reflection analysis is worth 45 marks essentially.
Yeah.
And then all the other things, personal reflection analysis is worth 30, and so on and so forth. So in terms of the discussion around, you know, what you contributed to teamwork, it's only worth 5. So don't feel like you need to spend half of the discussion around that. You know, you've got to look at the rubric and break it up that way. So, you know, it's pretty well broken up in terms of what you get 5 marks for throughout the thing, and what's essentially worth the most. So your key thing is this critical reflection journal. So if we're going to say, well, you know, what are we looking for? We're looking for effective critique and themes. So you want to, that's where you've got to bring theory in.
Theory, yeah.
Okay, and you've got to apply the theory. The personal reflection is really looking at it from in terms of what you learnt and you know, how you think it'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
And then all these other things are just saying, well, you know, teamwork, I hate teamwork. You know, that's the reflection.
Cool.
But it's interesting, like, I've got to tell you as a student, I hated teamwork as well. As a facilitator, I see how challenging it can be in terms of the teamwork and what have you. But when you go out into the workforce, you're working in teams whether you like it or not. And so, you know, whilst it's not exactly replicating what happens in the workplace, that's the intention, to try and demonstrate or try to give people some sort of feel for what goes on. But you're all working anyway, so you kind of all get it. Okay, so let's go to the exam. Have Western Sydney notified you in terms of when the exam is?
I think I got an email saying I had an exam.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
it's on
got a
the
date.
10th.
Oh,
of
I've got the date,
August.
but I just want to
Yeah,
make sure that
10th of
you've received something, because
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit. I was just, because I'm not. If you have a problem with the exam, I'm not around to say, hey, I'm having a problem, so you need to contact the right people. But we'll talk
Right.
about that right now. So, final exam. It's a 2-hour exam. It's worth 20%. It's unsupervised, and you have to submit it via Turnitin. So it is on Wednesday, the 10th of August. Now, it says 2021. Sorry, it should say 2022. But here's the thing. It opens between 7 a.m. and it closes at 7 p.m. Now, I know that many of you or all of you work, but you're going to have to find a 2-hour window between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So unfortunately, they have not been that flexible in that regard. You know, for those that might have wanted to have done it at 8 o'clock. So that's out of my hands. I can't influence that, but I'll just warn you straight away. Now, you can only attempt the exam once, and then the important thing is that you must complete it in one sitting. So you can't start the exam and then go, well, I've got something to do, I'll go and do it, and then come back and do the rest. So you must complete it in one sitting. You must complete it in a Word document. So you should all have Word. If you haven't, then Western Sydney, you've all got Word, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of what the exam is about, it's looking at whether you understand a marketing plan. So don't get too worked up in terms of what the case study is, because the case study is going to be. We'll talk about that in a moment, but it's a scenario. Okay. But what is really important? It's because all of you as a group, you would have worked on different components potentially of the marketing plan. But what it's trying to assess or ascertain is that you're competent in the entire marketing plan, not just the section that you completed. Okay, so that's the key point there. So you're not going to be talking about the marketing plan that you just wrote. You're not expected to write a marketing plan of the same length. Okay, so you know, I think you guys probably did like 50 pages. I know you've submitted it, but I haven't looked at it yet. But that's the key thing, is it's not the same as the assignment, but as the as the group assignment, but it is you are required to write a marketing plan. And so we'll talk about some of the headings in a moment. So you're going to get you're going to be given a scenario, and in that scenario, you'll have background information. You'll have information about the business. You'll have what's going on currently in the environment. So the situational analysis is kind of done. There'll be some information about the competition, and then about the industry and the business to date, etc., so that you'll get a full picture of what's going on. But then you have to prepare a marketing plan that will enable the operation to achieve a set sales target within 18 months. So your plan needs to incorporate appropriate marketing models and should draw on strategic marketing theory, okay, in support of your analysis and recommendations. Now, as I said before, there's no word limit. There's no number of pages that you should use. But generally speaking, when people do this type of exam, people end up writing about 5 pages in 2 hours. Okay. Now that's not to say that you write 5 pages and you stop. If you end up with 10 pages, so be it. But don't feel like you need to write. Again, it's quality over quantity. So just make sure that you approach it that way. Now, when you think about a suggested structure, you don't need to include all of these. However, you might go, well, I'll do an introduction to introduce what's going on. I'll do a situational analysis because I've got that information. I can do a market analysis. I can do an environmental, whatever you want to do. So what I would suggest you do before the exam is that you get yourself a Word document and that you put these type of headings on that Word document. And so you prepare the document ready to go. And then when you're in the exam, if you decide not to do control procedures, or if you decide not to do budget, whatever it might be, you can take it out. But at least that way, you're not wasting your time trying to form your structure before you go in. So I would say to you, build yourself a little, I won't say template, but build yourself a document that's for the exam that has certain headings on it. And then you can go through and do this. And as I say, this is not the suggested solution. It's just these are some of the things that you might want to include in your discussion. Or you could just look, you might go, well, I won't do it based on this. I'll do it based on the headings that we did for our assignment, if that's what you want to do.
Do we need to reference for the exam?
Not for the exam. No, the exam is really, it's an open book exam. But no, it's not. I wouldn't be expecting you to reference in the exam. I mean, let's just double check that to see in case that's not correct. But my expectation is in exam conditions, you don't reference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just double check that because sometimes.
We'd rather be safe than sorry to know if we can.
No, 100%. I mean, if you have to, it'll tell you, but it is an open book exam, but you don't need to have, because you're getting information from different places. You don't want 20 books open in front of you to try and, run to and try and find things. You could, like I say, you can prepare some little bits and pieces for yourself if you want to. If you did include a reference, it's not going to harm your result, but I'm not expecting to see them. So don't feel sorry. I'm just having a quick look to see if it says anything here about that.
Can I just ask quickly while you're doing that?
Sure.
I normally use like Google Docs and then download the document as a Microsoft Word document. Is that okay? Or does it need to be a Word document?
I think because it's going into Turnitin, it needs to be a Word document.
Okay.
So I think Turnitin is the issue on that. So have you ever submitted anything Turnitin via that?
Yeah, I think every exam that I've done.
Okay, well, that's probably your answer. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry, Victoria.
Yeah, okay.
I really don't know
That's
what
fine.
to tell you on that. But if you've said that you've done it before and it's worked, it should be okay.
Cool.
But maybe
just download Microsoft Word just in case.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Okay. Now, as you know, in regard to exams, there are no extensions. There are no like I'm not in the picture in regard to the exam. So if there's some immediate emergency and you can't sit the exam on that particular day for whatever reason, then it's your responsibility to contact the right people. So let me just again share the screen. Yeah, so if you unable to attend the exam, then please click on this here and log in and let them know. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think that's all I've got in relation to that. Let me just double check. Any other questions in relation to the exam? How are you feeling about it? You feeling comfortable and confident? I mean, I mean, it's a dumb question because everyone always feels a little bit nervous, but where are you at?
I feel like now that we've just done a whole like marketing plan like that, it seems all right. Like we've all gone through, we all worked like really hard together. So I don't know,
It
covering those
doesn't
topics.
scare me as much as I
Yeah, it
thought
doesn't
it
scare me as
might,
much.
especially
Mm.
because we've just done like a 60-page one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
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 And that's what you need to reflect on when you're putting that together. So even if you're not sure in terms of the actual case, I would just study the case study that you've done just to kind of get a good understanding of the different sections, and just keep falling back on that. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know it might not be possible, but would you have an example of like what it would look like of the question, or like past exam kind of thing?
Well, let me have a look, because that's a good question. Let me see. I don't think so, because like I said, it's not, because it is an exam,
Okay.
it doesn't sit in Canvas, but I'll just have a quick look. I'll look at what they did last time. Sorry, you can't see my screen at the moment. I'm just going to look at last year's assignments. Okay, so final exam. So there's the final exam there. Moderate this quiz. Okay, let me look at speed grader. Okay, so that didn't work. Let me try again. So it's just where'd that go? It's, I think 11. No, that's a reflective journal. Sorry, I'm just going back again. Assignments. Final exam. Speed grader. No, it's not letting me do it. I'll try one more time. Oh, here we go. Okay, I can show you. All right, I'll show you this. You share. So this is what it'll look like, because you'll get a case study, and there'll be some background information. You'll get who something about the business, the current situation, competition, the industry. So you can see it's quite substantial in terms of what's there, and then you have to basically do your marketing plan. Okay.
Cool.
So does that help?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get that to you, just so you've got something to kind of study.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll ask the question. So hopefully that kind of helps what your cause there. All right, guys. So that's that part. So we all good for Monday night? So what are you proposing to do?
We honestly have to have, we plan on having a meeting about that to sort out what we're doing for the video. I think we're still discussing when we can do it, because we only really finished the report to full completion last night.
Well, in terms of a video though, because we're presenting live to
presentation.
because we're presenting live to the client. Yeah, I mean, essentially, you just want to present some of the key points out of your your marketing plan, and so what you need to think about is how you're going to present that. So you'll need to have some slides, obviously, but don't make them too wordy. Okay, so PowerPoint suggests, as the name suggests, is points. So just try and use some points. I mean, I don't mind if you have some things that you're reading to kind of prompt you, but you know, don't just read your paper. That's really important, that you don't just kind of come out with, you know, I've been in presentations where someone just reads a paper from start to finish and it's 2,000 words and everyone's gone to sleep by the time they get to the, you know, the second page. So it's important that you do make it somewhat engaging, and you know, you might, a good way to do that is to you know, drop some anecdotes in the presentation. So, you know, give little stories and try and engage the audience by asking questions that they need to answer, things like that. But I'll leave it up to you how you do it. It's your presentation, but yeah, I mean, it's on Monday, so I mean, we don't have a lot of time to get it done, but we can't really go beyond Monday because we have to get it finished on Monday, basically. So you are under a bit of pressure to get it finished. But if you wanted to practice, I'm happy to be available on Sunday nights if you need to do a practice. If that's, I'll leave that up to you. You let me know if you want that, and so you can run over. So that'll give you at least, you know, most of the weekend to get it finished. And then if you just want to go over it, just so that someone listens to it. I mean, I don't. If we do that, I mean, I'm not going to be able to give you much feedback to change it between Sunday and Monday, but it might just make you feel more relaxed when you go in on the Monday. So up to you.
Okay. Can we email you and just let you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm available all day Monday as well. So if you wanted to do it that way, but again, I know that you're all working, so which is why we went with 8 o'clock on Monday night. You know, I'd say to you if we could potentially do it at 6 o'clock, but I've got something on at 6 o'clock on a Monday, so I'm going to be running home to get to you by 8, so, which I did tonight as well.
Cool.
Regarding that, like, I know our presentation goes for 15 minutes. How long do you think we'll actually need to be in the kind of meeting for?
Oh, look, you present. They may have some questions, but I don't expect it to go more than half an hour.
Beautiful. Okay, easy.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, 15-minute presentation, and then we say our goodbyes. That would be the perfect scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good.
Cool.
And for this one, we all have to like talk for some part as well.
Look, I think that when we're talking about teams, you all have different strengths, right? And my thing is that when it comes to presenting, it's not everybody's strength to stand in front of a group of people and present. So it might be that, you know, you as a group have to decide. I mean, you probably need at least 3 of you to participate in the presentation, but you need to acknowledge different members of the group as well, so that we know that everyone's contributed. So I'm not really anal about, you know, having all 6 of you present. I don't think that's a good presentation. In fact, I think it's really, it can be a problem.
Yeah, because I was just asking because I think last time you mentioned something about we might all have to do some part in talking as well.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, see, when we were talking about that, so if you recall, Amanda was our luck at the time. Amanda was the lady that came in the first, but she was the one that's saying, "Oh no, everyone needs to present." But that's not my philosophy, and she's left. She's no longer with Western Sydney.
Cool.
She's gone to another job. So based on that, I'm going to play ignorant and go, "Oh, I didn't know that everybody had to present." You know, it's a big group.
Don't know what you're talking about. Awesome. Cool.
No, because I mean, for me, as I said to you, when you're doing your reflection, you're going, well, here's my strengths, here's my weakness.
Yeah.
And here's the strength of my colleagues. And so this, you know, somebody in the group might, like I've seen situations where you get an international student and they're being asked to present, but they really struggle with it. Not all of them. I mean, you know, some students really struggle with it, but they're put in a situation which is really highly challenging for them, and I don't think that that's conducive to their education. You know, when you're in a group of, when you're in a team and you go to present to a client, You know, not everyone doesn't get up and present. It's 2 or 3 people. You know, it's the key people that have the key message. Well, that's their key role, so they'll do that. Anyway, like I say, I'll leave it up to you how you want to do it. But I would say that it's going to need at least 2 of you and maybe 3 of you. But I don't think all 6 need to present. I just
Would it be
don't.
bad if all 6 presented?
Entirely up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I say it wouldn't be bad. It's there's arguments for both. If all 6 present, then it kind of means that everybody has to participate and what have you. But I think when all 6 present, I think that's where there's an opportunity for there to be a weakness, if you like, because you might be giving a really strong presentation and then someone that's struggling with an element of it might kind of pull you back.
Yep.
So, you know, this is all about the collective. We want to get a good mark for everybody. And so you really need to put your best foot forward. And if that means that that you're the best presenter in the group, then maybe you need to take a lead role and somebody else might go, look, it's probably not my forte. So I'll do all the, I'll prepare the slides and I'll transfer the information from the report into the slides. I mean, you know, like I said, roles and responsibilities.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, we'll probably have to have a discussion about it and then sort it all out. And then if we, we'll practice it a few times ourselves. And if we need to sort of run it back with you once more, we can email you and get in touch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, ideally, it'd be nice if we come in and I haven't seen it, and then I can be as surprised as everybody else in terms of what you present. But on the other hand, you know, if we do go over it, then I can, if there's anything that needs to be tweaked, I can kind of go, well, maybe you need to tweak this, or you need to think about something.
Okay.
But look, you know, I haven't read.
Would it even help
yet? But
if we
I
were
would
to
suggest
film
that,
it?
yeah,
and
you could
send
do
it to
that.
you?
You could do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's always an option. If you want to do that,
So-
then I can watch it on Sunday night and just
Oh,
give
okay.
you some feedback, or even Saturday, whenever. If you send me something, I can then say, hey, yeah, I've had a look, and you know, this area was good. This area maybe you need to tighten up a little bit.
Right.
But the things to look out for is, like I said, don't read, don't talk a million miles an hour, because that's really off-putting when someone just really blabs it out because they want to get off stage as quickly as they can. So it's all about composure. It's about being able. I'm a soccer player, or used to be, and I coach kids. And the things that I say to the kids is, you need to be composed when you're on the ball. Okay. Now, if you think about life, or if you think about sport is a cliche for life. So when you're playing a game like football, you need composure on the ball. When you're presenting, you need composure in front of your audience. And to be composed, you need to know your stuff. So if you know your stuff, you're able to present quite comfortably. But if you don't know your stuff, then you're jittery, you're going too quick, you're reading, your eyes are going everywhere. You want to try and engage your audience and keep your eye on the camera as much as you can. Okay. But the good thing is, you're going to have a presentation, a PowerPoint slide, right? So as soon as I put the slides up, you're now looking at the slides. I'm not looking at you anymore. Okay. Or sorry, you're looking at the slides. You're not looking at me. And so from that perspective, I can kind of drift a little bit. I don't have to be so focused on the camera. So that's another thing to think about. That's again why we want to use slides. Okay. So you can have lots of notes. I've got no issue if you've got notes and you're using them to get through, but just don't read a paragraph. Okay, have your little notes. And look, this is what I do when so I've got my stuff here. It's all in dot point form. Oh, you probably can't see that, but it's all dot points. And as I go through, I'm just basically giving you what's in front of me so I don't forget either. So that's all it is. And
cool.
Look, the most important thing is the content, and it's the delivery of that content. And it's just, you know, you're presenting to a client, so it's a pitch. So it needs to be very succinct and to the point. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So will we leave it at that?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, I'll leave it with you. Call out if you need anything. But yeah, thank you for your hard work this term. I hope that your presentation is enjoyable. At least it'll be enjoyable once you've done it because it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what are we today? It's the 27th today. Your exam's on the 10th. So, we've essentially got 14 days and it's all over. So enjoy the ride.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys. Well,
Thank you.
I'll see you Monday, if not before.
Hey,
Okay.
Andrew, have you got 5 minutes to chat about a different unit?
Oh,
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
no problem.
Sorry.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Awesome.
I'll stop the
Bye.
recording.